There we go. Guess what, guys? We're live.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm
hope you're
excited.
You should be excited.
I'm very excited.
It's alive.
It's all here. Let's do it. Get in here. I'm gonna like and share and do all the things. Bop.
Yeah, Trey, if you wanna take care of that, put it out on the Facebooks.
Yeah,
and,
I will. I will share the things.
and on our Discord server.
And on the Discord server.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do all the things that you normally do. that I totally know how to do as well.
I'll do Discord, Trey. It's okay.
Okay, cool. I mean, I was here. I was ready to do it.
Oh, let me see. I should be able to
Themes,
copy
go
and
away.
paste
Please,
last.
Get out of here, themes.
Yeah.
I'll go drop it on Fanatix page too.
Ooh.
Copied.
Right, yeah. Let's see here. Make sure chat's working with my customary. Woo!
I keep on wanting to spell quest instead of guest,
Quest.
which is
Special quest.
which
I
is
like
funny.
Quest.
For
I think I saw that somewhere, and I thought it was like an actual stylized choice, like special quest.
yeah,
Special
like, oh,
quest,
cool.
yeah. Like, oh, that's a cool nerdy thing to do.
Yeah, like favorite terrain. What a great name for a
Hey,
chat.
we don't have very many skills around here, but naming crap is pretty high on our list.
It's an important skill.
there we go. Boop and then boop.
Like
Okay.
when we were talking about doing our D&D show, and Travis is like, "What are we naming it?" I'm like, "We're gonna call it Table Scraps," and he goes, "That's the best thing I've ever heard."
Oh man. Okay. All right. So we're out there. People are going to start trickling in here as usual. Already see Bearded Book Club in the chat with a woo. Yeah. So when you get in here, let us know you're in here in the chat. Leave us a like, and we'll blow it up. We'll blow it out of here. As you can tell, Trey's taking a picture, which is funny.
You said make a post. Here we go, man.
Okay, as you can tell, we have a third little square on the screen that's normally not there, and we've got a special guest tonight with Phil Chalker, or Fanatix Phil, as he's known in the community. If you've ever been around the Troy Enterprise Dothan area, you may have seen Fanatix store here or there, or joined us with our live show at Fanaticon, where we've had booths and tons of fun, and so he's going to hang out with us tonight, and we're going to just reminisce and talk about exciting things, and of course D&D and tabletop RPG content. So super pumped.
So to give people kind of the story of how this all came to be, Travis and I were born in log cabins. No, it's a little bit different. But,
What?
like I went back to the beginning. But no, when we started doing this channel, Phil was, heading up Fanatix, the local gaming store, and that's where, man, if you were a nerd, that's where you had to hang out. At least this is from my perspective. Like, if you were anybody, you went to Fanatix and you hung out and you had a good time. The atmosphere was phenomenal in Fanatix. It was a great space to be. You had, like, anything you wanted to do and connect with was there, and it was available. And that really resonated with Travis and I, because ever since we started Two Beards Play, we were like, we love building communities around games, around playing together, around nerd culture and stuff like that. So when we were in there, we were just like, who are these people and how do we get involved with what they're doing? Like, that's what we wanted to do. And Travis, being in the same city, was like, I'm going to be a dungeon master for these people. And he did it. He straight up went in there and was like, Phil, I can't speak for that whole process, but I imagine.
There's the picture.
There it is.
Yeah, me, Kote, and Phil right there.
That's awesome.
It was a good time.
That was a
really
good time. Yeah.
That
And
was
then
my first surprise show and tell object, but we'll talk about that later too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, we just sort of like all hooked up together and started doing stuff, and Fanatix got to do more and more stuff. You guys had like broadcasting, you had tournaments. Eventually Fanaticon became a thing where you put on this convention, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Fanaticon in our reminiscing, but Fanaticon was probably the biggest thing I was ever involved in, to be honest. Like the last couple of years, I looked around at one point and I was like, Travis, holy crap, dude! Like it was really something. And then when you were like, hey, you guys want to do a live D&D show? We said, oh yeah, we do.
That was fun.
That
It
was
was
fun.
a lot of fun. Yeah. So, Phil, I want you to just sort of like tell us what you're doing now, because you guys have kind of shifted gears. COVID got weird for everybody, and you know it kind of did a number on a lot of different stuff. But you guys have kind of shifted from the stores to more of Fanatix publishing. And when I heard you were doing this, I got very excited, because I was like, ooh, I could already see the gears turning in your head and what you wanted to do. So tell us about the transition from Fanatix the store to Fanatix publishing, and kind of what you guys are about these days.
Absolutely. So, as you guys mentioned, Fanatix was a game comic retail store for 10 years. For some of you, you may remember a small little side project called Fanatix and Company, or Fanatix and Co. And between like 2013 and 2016, we sought out independent artists and would publish, you know, up and coming graphic novels or tabletop games, hopefully. And it was one of those projects where we really loved it. It was adjacent to my interest, but because the store was king, you know, Fanaticon and Fanatix were king, it always took the back burner, and it was very stressful. You know, one year I think I went to upwards of like between 12 and 16 conventions to table at Dragon Con, Wizard World Atlanta, like, and we sold these comic books and games. But it was just really hard, you know. It was, you can't serve two masters, as they say.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was always put on the back burner. So then COVID happened. We lost the store, made the decision to close the store, and now we've kind of come full circle. We're back in Dothan, and we were like, man, I've been working on stories my whole life, so now the chance is to start Fanatix again. We're still in the business of comics and games, but now we want to put the producing of that product on the front burner instead of the back burner. And so that's kind of the short version of that story. We love those things, and instead of selling other people's properties, we'd like to go ahead and finish creating some of the ones we were working on and put it out there for the whole world.
I love it. I love it because it's people doing what they love and getting it out there for other people to enjoy it as well. And the more small, quote unquote, small publishing companies become more and more a thing, it really gives like the average nerd like me, that gives me hope, because I'm like, if I ever wanted to make something and wanted to put it out there, like, you're a guy that I know that I can call and be like, hey, I got this thing, would y'all be interested? And we can talk and do all of that, because you guys have always you guys have always been very down to earth, and you're like, where are we going to get our stuff? The nerds that walk in the shop, but now through the networking and everything.
Right.
So,
I mean, like you said, it's about building communities, and for small publishing companies, an online community is just as important as a physical community. And so that's why we decided to make the hard, you know, it was a tough decision. Like, do we start from scratch or do we use Fanatix? And the fact is, Fanatix is these things that we're talking about. And so for customers that want to be involved, or former customers who want to get involved again with the Fanatix brand or the mission of building community around certain products that they love, then it just made sense to do it. And that's exactly what you're explaining there, is exactly what we hope to achieve.
oh yeah, and I'm excited that I get to wear my Fanatix shirt again. It's not what is that?
You never had to stop, sir.
And I honestly just love the narrative too, because we are lovers of story and adventure and where quests take us. And, you know, I love the fact that we were able to have a comic and game store for 10 years, and that instead of just hanging up that brand forever, it's now become like a producer of the things we used to sell. I really enjoy that. It's a fun, you know, it's a fun journey, and we hope to, you know, keep it going another 10 years, but on the other side of the aisle, I guess you could say.
Well, yeah, and you know you got Two Beard support. Like, anything you've ever had your hand in, we were like, got to do it. When I heard you were back in Dothan, I messaged Travis. I was like, dude, the Chalkers are back. I'm so excited. Like, I was like, I wasn't trying to throw pressure, because I was like, I know you have your own life and you got stuff to do, but I was like, you and your wife have always been those kind of people where I'm like, they are really cool and they care about people. So
Well, I
it's
appreciate
always
that.
been
Yeah.
it's been obvious to, at least to me, how and the way you conduct business and how you treat people. You know, I just see you post every once in a while and you're like, hey, ran into these old Fanatics kids. Isn't that
I
cool?
love the Fanatics kids. That's the only thing I look forward to is going out to eat with people who used to come to the store.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I know that's weird, but it's just, you know, our customers were our friends, basically. We did not
Yeah.
have a social life. But we did. Our social life was the business. I mean,
Right.
those things don't have to be exclusive. You know, a lot of people these days, we talk about, oh, you got to separate work and play. But no, I mean, if you own your own business, no, the goal is to like work with the people you would play with. So
That's kind of the whole point. You know, me and Travis have always
Right.
had this joke about when we have our own dungeon mastering business, and that's what we do. And I'm like, oh, we're going to build a whole job around it, you know?
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll be a thing someday. But, you know, I wanted to ask you, Travis, unless you had something.
No, I'm just taking a back seat on this one. Apparently,
You can. I you know me, man. I prepare. Like, I'm excited, you know?
No, yeah, we're cut from two different cloths.
Very
I come into these podcasts with zero preparation, which mirrors my dungeon mastering style. So it's fine.
hey, it works sometimes.
Yeah.
When I was DMing full time, I was like, okay, I can spend the amount of time reading it's kind of the same conversation. It's like I can read other people's adventures and then try to recontextualize it for my group, or we can just wing it and we'll just write our own.
Yeah.
And sometimes
yeah.
you just have to write your own. So
Yeah,
I
for
get
sure.
both sides of that coin.
I did this thing this past week with my group that ended up being a lot of fun. I saw this idea on the internet, as most ideas come from. And it was this concept to where you make your players' characters, everything about them. And you give them blank character sheets and say, all right, we're about to start playing, and you just figure it out as you go. So
This gives me anxiety.
well, I figured, but my players, we ended up loving it because, one, we immediately started playing. We didn't have to do anything because, you know, I just rolled up a bunch of a couple of random characters for them. And I said, all right, here's the situation. What do you do? And they're like, and then they just started role playing. And then as they were doing, suddenly every little piece of information was important. You know, like suddenly my characters go from, well, I just immediately start doing this to, I check my belt. What's hanging on my belt? Like, you know, they're trying to furiously scribble down any information I can give them. And it ended up being a lot of fun. They learned maybe 6 things total, and now they want to play it again. It may end up being an actual campaign, but we'll see.
Fun.
But it was cool to kind of shift it up and do something like that.
Definitely.
So, speaking of D&D, you played any D&D lately, Phil?
I've been reading a lot of Free League publishing lately. So the Simbaroom starter box, and then I just got Tales from the Loop starter box as well. And I've been reading my D&D handbook here and there, mainly out of an exercise of like getting some structure information on like book layout for some secret projects. But haven't gotten to play much. Just reading all the adventures as a DM does, right? You just read all the time and then you never play until you.
Right, yeah. Or you
Right
pick up
now
a
I
fantasy
play-
novel.
Yeah, right now I'm playing this role-playing game called College, where I'm a level 4 senior English major, so they're giving me a lot of quests right now.
It took me a minute, and I'm like, well, Phil knows a lot of games, and I'm like, that sounds like a boring one, but whatever.
Troy University role-playing game.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
just show up to class and pretend you know what you're talking about for a little while.
Exactly. And you're getting your English degree, right?
Yep. Finally, after a long
best
time.
degree. Best degree. Don't muck it up with that stupid education nonsense. Just get your English degree and enjoy it, is what I tell people. So I know another project that you do your streams on and everything is, don't let me butcher the name, Hierophant?
Hierophant, yep.
Hierophant. Tell us
You
about
got it.
Hierophant. What is that?
Hierophant is the genesis of a good friend of mine's card design, Tyler Lindsay, who was actually like a competitive Magic the Gathering player at Fanatix, and one of our first employees, actually the first employee. And me and him started working on a tabletop card game in 2018. And again, another one of those projects that kept getting put on the back burner because we had, 2 locations in Fanaticon.
Right.
But we had fully tested out this tabletop game, card game, and it kind of got shelved because just everything going on. And then 2020 happened, and so we worked on the game for a couple years, then it just went silent.
Yeah.
So then about 2022, when I left my last job, he called me out of the blue, and I actually had just left a job, and I was like writing full time. I was working on some comic book scripts. He's like, "Hey, do you ever think about that game we were working on?" I'm like, "Yeah, all the time." And so we ended up just like refiring it back up, and it wasn't named yet. It was like a working title name. And so he read one of my comic book scripts called Wirewolves, which is about a hacktivist gang of werewolves fighting like information controlling vampires. I know that sounds wild, but it's a cyberpunk property.
Yeah, I'm rolling with it.
And so he really liked it, and then we ended up melding the two projects together and making this tabletop card game based on a far future cyberpunk universe that we like to say is high cyberpunk. It's like high fantasy plus cyberpunk, so it's kind of like cyberpunk, post cyberpunk is a good term for it. So it's very futuristic, but it's still alternate Earth, right? And so that's kind of, and so higher, but the main character are these people really good at delving into mysteries and uncovering truth. And of course, it's kind of a nod to the tarot card deck, the Hierophant. And so those characters become known as Hierophants in the world, and that is the titular character, and that's what the name is. And yeah, we just started our stream for that project. We're starting to become more public with some of the information and lore. So it's coming. It's been a huge, like I think our world building document is almost at 20,000 words right now. And so it's going to have a separate release, which is going to be an RPG source book for science fiction role-playing games. Doesn't have to be cyberpunk, it could be, but it's really kind of geared towards more of a narrative notebook that people could use and kind of explore our universe before the game actually comes out. And then later this year, hopefully, obviously timelines are still up in the air, but we'll kind of preview the world with this system agnostic world book, and it'll probably come with like the first booster pack, right? You'll get a taste of the cards. And then later the year, we'll launch the actual card game. And those with the world book they'll know everything that's going on. It'll be really fun.
Right. And I like that because that means if you get into it early, you get kind of like a leg up. You're like, oh, I know about this.
Yeah. It's plus, like, you guys know, especially Travis, like when we started the D&D program at Fanatix, instead of just playing D&D, we had to tie it in with some high arcing narrative. We had to do something cool with it. The same goes for like the property of our card game. We don't want to make a card game for the sake of it. Like these are like actual stories we enjoy reading and telling. And so instead of just designing a card game where it's like, oh, this guy has this on his jacket and that icon and this weapon, instead of just saying that, like, kind of arbitrarily choosing those things, these are characters rooted in like a narrative that we've already fleshed out, and so it'll feel more real, hopefully, on the page. On the cardboard. So that's kind of the other project there. All about spreading out those narrative roots and giving people something to sink their teeth into for those who want to.
Oh yeah, I love the idea of having a big old open world thing. Travis and I have already established that both of our D&D worlds that we use in our games are connected.
Absolutely. I love that stuff. Very meta. I love meta fiction and meta storytelling.
Yeah, I still have...
Real quick, Travis, go ahead.
No, you're good. No, I still have... It's printed out somewhere in one of my mini notebooks, but I have the map. I can't remember the name of the land, but the one that we were sharing between the stores for our D&D stuff.
Core.
K-O-R. Yeah, I still have that. I was looking at it. I was like, this is really cool.
That was fun, man. Into the realm.
Yeah, and it was. And that... I know after COVID and Fanatix closing and stuff, I kept that game going.
Nice.
The game ended up being a 2-year game. We got all the way to level 20. We did like some top tier crazy god killing stuff, and awesome. it was great. And then like the last session, like that next weekend, like Matt and Paige, they moved. Another person moved, and it was just like this. It was like the little cherry on top. We got the last session in. We completed that story. Everybody was level 20, and we kind of parted ways. And I've got, actually, I don't know if it's on the screen. No, it's not. Just the little corner here. But this was the artwork commission for our group that was hanging up in the game room in Fanatix that I took with me when it was closing. It was hanging in the back here. Also, I don't know if you could tell, but the Dothan skateboard thing that you had, it's hanging up here too, right next to Miss Piggy.
That was kind of our MO, was like getting involved in way too much stuff, But it was, I mean, That's honestly like it's so funny because like we don't talk about it much, but some of the things we did with that store were kind of epic. It's like kind of got downplayed from COVID. Really, we were like full steam ahead in 2019. I mean, Fanaticon was the biggest it's ever been. The Rad Giant Skate Supply had raised a bunch of money, and we had partnered with Zero Skateboards, and like it was really going well. It's unfortunate what happened, but I don't complain too much because obviously far worse things happen to other people than us. It's
Yeah. Well, we don't view the Fanatics epic as over. We just see it differently now.
Yeah.
It's a new chapter.
Yeah. In chat, we got Emily Price saying the wrestling was mind blowing, or the emojis there.
That's another brand we still got floating out there that we're not sure what we're going to do about. Fanatics Wrestling Federation, because
it's very much a thing. I bought my first luchador mask at Fanaticon.
But if you think about it, though, there's one common thread with all of that stuff, and it's all about narrative, like telling fun stories with real people. You know what I mean? Like wrestling is live soap opera.
Yeah.
And live comic books, live manga, and you just can't get any better than that, really. I mean, we had a script for those watching that even may see this or care, but FWF had like a script. Like we had people writing this stuff with me, and we had locations set up in town to film like interviews with people. Wolfpack MMA was going to help us do some like recording in their little caged arena in the back of the old location.
Yeah,
it was going to be epic. But again, that was our first show was October of 2019 at Fanaticon, and we all know what happened in about 3 months after that.
Yep, and it was. I just remember that one. I guess we're going down memory lane now. That last Fanaticon, like, so many great things were going on. We were in, I think, the biggest space we had ever been in for it.
100%.
Yeah, and like the
I mean, you pretty much had all of Dothan downtown.
Oh yeah.
It was probably like the final realization of what the event could be.
Yeah.
Outside of spending more money on celebrities, because at the end of the day, once you have all the structural stuff designed for a convention, your budget just needs to increase to get the marquee name brand of guests. Fun fact on guests too, real quick aside. In 2015, when Space Dandy came, Ian Sinclair, we were discussing potential future guests, and you know who we chatted about? Matt Mercer. And at the time, I think 2015 was pre-Critical Role.
He wasn't huge at the time.
No, but we knew who. He was just like, oh, Matt Mercer's really nice.